have my help desk appointment set up. So that's the first thing. It's available to me. It's set there as a reminder. I can go ahead and dismiss that reminder if I want to do that. The other thing is you now see the requests that I have that were submitted. So the first one saying that I was unable to access email, and you see that it's in a status of in progress. And the second one is the order the new computer that is waiting for approval. So in that case, we're waiting for someone to approve that request. What I'm going to do is switch over. I've been using the client here native to the iOS. What I'm going to do is switch over to the universal client, which is the web client that people would use if they're sitting at their desktop leveraging MyIT. And I'm going to switch over there to be Mary. So in this case, I'm logged in as Mary. I'm going to go ahead and refresh, make sure my session's still active here. And you see I have a similar look and feel in MyIT from the web console to the iOS application. The big difference is in a web console you have more real estate. So you can see that we put our links up here across the top instead of in a menu. And the key thing to remember about that is they are two different clients. It's not a web client being run on an iOS device or on an Android. It is a purpose-built application that is optimized for that platform, but it's the same experience whether they're using their iPad, whether they're using an Android phone, or they're using the universal client. The experience across all of the platforms is the same for your users. So for Mary, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into her approvals. And we see that she does have an approval waiting for the order new computer. So right now, as an approver, I can just go in there, and at this point, I can make my decision what I want to do, whether I put it on hold, reject it, or approve it. And I'm going to go ahead and send that approval. So now, right there, what you've done is you've made it very easy for your approvers in the organization to quickly get approvals and approve them without having to do anything different than how they would interact today. The other thing that I make available through the solution is, and I'll show you this, is the concept of a corporate app store through AppZone you see there. We have the ability to make applications available for multiple platforms, whether they be desktop applications, whether they be apps that run on your mobile tablet devices, and you have control as the enterprise for what you want to make available and publish. So as a user, I get a new device and I want to start, using it, or I now have to work on a project that requires me to, say, use Microsoft Visio. I go right into the App Zone. I select the application that I want, so in this case, Visio. And then all I do is go ahead and launch it or download it based on what I need. And in the background, if approvals are needed, again, the approvals will be launched, similar to what we just saw from the service catalog request. And then once I have approval, I can download the application, and I now have it available for use. So you, as an enterprise, can control the applications that make things available to your end users. So again, giving them the power to select what they want, but you having the management control of what they have access to. So let me go back to my timeline. And I'm going to go ahead and look at what's happening with my request. So you can see that the order new computer went from awaiting approval to initiated. So you can see that one, and then the unable to access email, I have a request that has been sent over, and you can see that the request is completed. So if you wanted to get some more information, so if there were any comments that were put out there, you could see that those comments would be there. So if I had any feedback from the help desk, that would be out there. So what I'm going to do now is really, now that I know email is back up, I'm going to reach out to Bob real quick and ask him if he's had any trouble with email. So let me do that real quick just to show you how collaboration works. So I'm going to use a shortcut key of the app, and I'm going to say Bob Baxter. And I'm going to say, ask him, did you have any issues with email this morning? And now what you'll see is I've sent that request off to Bob. This is a way for me to collaborate to see, hey, was this a problem that I had on my own? Now, I could have done this before I submitted the request to the help desk. It didn't really hit me till now to really ask Bob what he thought of it to see if it was localized or not. And Bob will have the ability to respond back to me and, give me his 2 cents on it, and I'll have that. So you can have that dialogue going with multiple people on different topics and have that true collaboration within, the interface and see what people think about what you're doing. So having that full scope of feedback. So while I'm waiting to see if Bob gets back to me, what I wanted to do is jump over real quick into the location services and just give you a quick view of that. So from a location services perspective, you see I'm just outside of Philadelphia. That's what the blue dot indicates. And you have your location, and what you're seeing is all of the other locations that have been configured for your other facilities come up from a geography. If I go ahead and look at the list, I can see what all of the locations are available to me. So, this list would have everything that's available to us. So let me see. See if BMC Houston comes up for me. Could also scroll down. And here, by clicking on the info button, I have some information about what's going on at Houston. And I could check into the location. So if I'm traveling there, I could check into the location. When I go into the location, I'm presented with the floor maps for that facility. So, for example, if I'm going to the executive briefing center with a customer, I can bring up the executive briefing center, and I have a lot of different options available to me. So if I'm in a conference room and I'm doing a meeting, when I'm in that conference room, I can select that conference room, and you see that the services that are specific to that conference room are made available in a location-aware manner. So you see on the left, I have report other issues, adjust the room temperature, report lighting issues. Those are requests that are specific to that room. So anything that we have available there, we can have those requests. So if I need to change the room temperature, I can go ahead and submit that request. I could also leave a tip. So if somebody, you want to leave a tip for the next person using that room, you could do that. You can also have links, so it doesn't just have to be service requests. If you want to have external information made available to your users, you could go ahead and do that. So, for example, we have the saddle down at the Executive Briefing Center, and if you want to know the history of the saddle, you just select the history of the saddle, and you can look at the history of the saddle. Right now, one of the rooms that I use very frequently down there is the Colorado room. So I can reserve it right here from the floor model, or I could go back to the main screen and reserve it. So let me go back. And here you see the Colorado room in the bottom right is available to me. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Colorado room, and I'm going to go ahead and reserve that for this afternoon. So you see that I have a picture of the room. I'm going to go ahead and select reserve. And I'm going to say that I need it for 30 minutes. And I need it for this afternoon. I just pick a time that works for me. So I'm going to select 4 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and submit that. So again, I get the reservation confirmation. I have the information about where the room is. I have all that info available to me. And we do that integration with Outlook. So from an Outlook perspective, if I go into my mail, you're going to see I now have that Colorado reservation room, just like you would if you reserved a room through Outlook. You have that confirmation saying that the room has been reserved on your behalf. So we have that integration into Exchange so that you can see and do room scheduling from that perspective. Which is really powerful. So last thing I want to show is I did hear back from Bob. You see that my last post here that I have has an update. So you see the number 1 update here. I'm going to go ahead and see what Bob had to say. And Bob said everything is fine on his end. So everything was good for him. One thing as I interact with Bob, one thing that made sense to me is I probably should be following Exchange, because if we're going to have any kind of outages, maybe I should do that. So over here on the right, I'm going to just type Exchange, and I'm going to follow that service. So it's to follow a service. It's as easy as selecting that service and then defining how I want to be notified. So as the status of that service changes, so if we have an outage and it comes back, how do I want to be notified about that? I could be notified by email. I could be notified by push notifications on my device, or both. So in this case, I have both of them selected, and I'm fine with that. So very quickly, we've talked through how you get help. We've talked through how you through the support screen. So if you want to get started through the support screen and have people submit requests in this fashion, it's a very logical progression from what they're doing today to use this. Eventually, you can get them into leveraging the home screen and the timeline. And the powerful part, once you get people comfortable with the timeline, is that we have shortcuts that are built into the timeline moving forward. So just to give you a quick preview of that, if I wanted to report something, I use the bang, so the exclamation point, and I say, I want to open up an incident. And what are you opening up an incident about? And I can say, I want to open up one about SharePoint, for example. And I want to say, SharePoint is down. In those 4 simple words, saying bang incident at SharePoint is down, I go ahead and submit that. I just opened an incident in the same fashion that you filled out a form. So now Formless IT is where people are going with the new IT to allow you to use shorthand to go ahead and make requests to the service desk without having to even know what form you have to fill in or the fields, etc. So you have both options as to how your organization matures, and it gives you that flexibility. So hopefully, through this quick demonstration, you were able to see the power of what MyIT can give you with interacting with your service desk, handling service requests, following critical business services, interacting with location-aware information, and doing tight collaboration via the timeline and interacting with your peers.